Chapter 31. Where are we? Shinji's mind called out of the maelstrom. Where is hard to explain, Callie thought in response. I'm not even sure that word has meaning here. Finding specific minds on a ship or even a planet is fairly easy. We're trying not to cast our mind out, beyond the conventional boundaries this time, although we always feel the pull. Every thought in darkness vibrates like a spider's web when touched by potential prey. We wait, letting our consciousnesses float in this place until I locate your resonance. My what? He called through the void. She could feel his thoughts like ripples flowing out of him. Our thoughts are carried like the vibration of the sound waves we create when we speak. You know them when you feel them. It's like hearing a familiar voice. When we feel a resonance, we can ignore it or follow it to its source. I felt something, Shinji thought. That was just a little one, caused by a powerful emotion or intention. It was close, but it wasn't me or you. Just wait while I try to locate your chord. Syntholo had already made his way into her mindscape, and he wasn't even a telepath. There were numerous ways for a psionicist to project their consciousness, yet Shinji didn't have any of these abilities within his current repertoire. Instead, whoever had programmed him at PRI had focused on abilities designed to influence and manipulate her. In order to draw him into her mind, she had to eject his consciousness out of his body first. With Syntholo's help, it had been frighteningly simple. Normally, a person would remain tethered by an ethereal silvery cord, but not Shinji. The side connecting to his body had become untethered somehow. She needed to find his cord and reconnect his soul with his body, or he'd be lost forever. My what? Shinji asked. Just keep holding my tail tight so you don't get swept away without me, Callie thought as calmly as she could. The thoughts of the old Clotharian queen were rhythmic and incredibly powerful, like waves crashing against the shore, and were her only chance of locating him. She watched and waited for the next pulse to pass through them. We're looking for something much bigger. She's at the heart of a hive mind, Kayla thought. If we get too close, we'll be drawn in further and further. We'll only escape if she lets us go. We're heading to a nexus between the threads. Just stay where you are and wait. Your mind felt different for a moment, Shinji observed. That's the part of me that was Kayla, Kivaza replied. Who was that? Shinji wondered. You have more than one consciousness within you? How? The next psychic wave passed. There, I found you. Try to relax, while I bring you to a safe place to talk. You can do that, Shinji wondered. Yes, Kayla and Kivaza thought in unison. Please, show me, he thought. Let me draw your consciousness within me, Callie thought. I'll walk you through my mind. The ground at the center of the ring of uneven stones had been scorched black. A purple flame blazed within a fire pit at the very heart of the circle. A dozen feet beyond the rocks was a circle of trees wreathing the formation which rested in the middle of a vast field of high grass. At the heart of it all stood Callie. Where are we? Shinji asked in a voice full of wonder. We're still on the ship, Callie laughed. Mentally, that's another matter entirely. In a manner of speaking, you're in our head. All of this is just a construct. We wanted to provide you with a more tangible frame of reference. Why can I see you, but not myself? He asked. It's a matter of self-visualization, Callie smiled. You have yet to do so, but don't worry, we know where you are. Is there a way that I can see myself? It's really strange not being sure where I am. If you're not comfortable with who you are, you could leave it to us to help create an appearance for you, but I'm not sure we'd agree on what that would look like, which could have interesting results. Why do you keep saying us and we? Shinji asked. Because we are a plurality, Callie explained. Individualized internal expression is a matter of internal variance. However, we speak of ourselves, publicly, as a singular entity to avoid causing confusion. Shinji started to panic. Relax, Callie laughed. Think of this as a border zone where we come together to resolve our conflicts. Is that what I am to you? Shinji asked. You are a source of conflict for us, Callie answered. Who are you talking about when you say we? Callie simultaneously stepped to the left and right and walked halfway around the inner ring of stones. Each of the selves that had stepped away from the original lacked tails and stripes. Her alternate self on the left had green eyes, deep red hair, and dark tan skin. The version of herself on the right had silvery gray hair, amber-colored eyes, and golden-hued skin. I am the part of Callie that was Kayla, the green-eyed girl said with a warm smile. I'm Kivaza, the amber-eyed aspect of Callie said with a steely gaze. Heels up, Shinji said softly. When we're in agreement, they said in unison, we're two halves of the same whole, which you called Kiva. I helped you pick that name, Shinji said proudly. We've since reconsidered that name, Kivaza said forcefully. We've chosen the name Callie, Kayla said with a shrug. You said you had two souls, one from each of the children you were made from at that cloning facility. Which one of you was the stillborn? Shinji asked. Kayla waved to him. Valk was my real mother, and my father was an empath named Dilak. So that would make you the dying child that had been in stasis for all those years, he said as he focused his attention on Kivaza. The scene around them shifted to an image of a young girl, who looked to be around 8 years old, being wheeled down a corridor by an entourage of insectal creatures and armored gyrons. A blind, old, Lupian was walking directly behind them. The young girl's breathing was shallow, and there was a strange elongated wound on her chest. The Lupian's wolfish features showed an intense sense of purpose. The image faded away swiftly. Kivaza shrugged. The majority of my life force had been drained by a lamentic soul mage. He used me as a battery to power his magic. And after all that you're willing to, Shinji said. A transparent image of a pale-skinned, silver-haired, lamentic holding a leech against the chest of the same female child shimmered momentarily within the center of the stone circle. Does that look like my Tejmare to you? Kivaza snorted. The mindscape blurred. Don't forget our agreement. We talked to Cyanide in a mindscape, Kayla insisted. It will help him understand us. You agreed to do this. Unlike Kayla, I was never actually born, Kivaza continued. I was a product of the same cloning facility in my first life as well. However, I was split in half the first time and combined the second. The wooded scene faded away and was replaced by a new image of a vast cloning facility. At its heart were two shadowy figures, one of which was only the size of a child. There were 3 chambers in front of them, the clear glassy tubes on the right and left were empty. In the central cylinder stood a young girl with stripes on one side of her body which lead down to her left hand and forearm which was the same color as her stripes. Who was she? Shinji asked. A chimera, Kivaza said. The result of one twin absorbing its sister while still in their mother's womb. Her name was Veshtaka, Kayla said emphatically. She asked her father to divide her into 2 bodies so each of the consciousnesses within her could have their own life. Let's be honest, Kivaza said irritably, they were triplets. If Veshtaka could have stood up to her brother, she wouldn't have needed me. They called us the Dark Seed, yet he was the monster. You said we again, and what does Dark Seed actually mean? He asked. I'm the reincarnation of Veshtaka, Kayla said dismissively. Kivaza thought otherwise, but opted not to object in his presence. The scene faded away and the stone circle came back into view. It's Lamentic law, Kivaza snickered. When one twin absorbs the other, they see the infant as being a murderer at birth. They call these children seeds, and kill them for what they see as a crime. We were the daughter of Edikoneg Goran and the queen of the Lamentics. Shinji was starting to find his own form within this dreamlike world of her creation. She's the last of the Eldaron race, Kayla said, then corrected herself. Well, I suppose I should say we are. Is this what you wanted to show me? Shinji asked. Kivaza smirked. There are things I want to show you, Kayla insisted. I thought explaining this would make things less confusing. We still haven't put all the pieces together, Kivaza said. It's going to seem strange no matter what we show you, but at least this should help you differentiate whose memory you're being shown. Two overlapping scenes struggled to emerge. Kayla was visible in one, and the dark-haired proprietress of Alliance Arms in the other. I was in Bruha's body after she ran away with ours, Kayla grumbled, as if this wasn't already complicated enough. A vision of Bruha's body sliding off of the sword held by a figure in black armor appeared within the center of the stone circle. I thought we'd skip that part, Kivaza chuckled. It wasn't exactly your finest moment. Maybe not, Kayla said, but our tales were the only thing that kept him from killing both of us after we finally came to peace with one another. I'm starting to wonder how the two of you are able to function as a single entity, Shinji remarked. You seem to spend a lot of time sniping at one another. Everyone's in conflict with themselves, they said in unison. You're a telepath, you've seen. We've just found a balance between our dual natures. They could feel Shinji's discomfort. There was a question he was afraid to ask. Case in point, Kivaza said with a chuckle. We can feel all those thoughts rumbling around in your head. There's a single question at the center, but you're not asking it because you're conflicted. Stop, Kayla said firmly. If you both could have your own bodies, would you? Shinji asked nervously. Kivaza smirked, rolled her eyes. He may be right. If we had found a way to split ourselves into two people, with two different bodies, it wouldn't end in the little scenario you're running through your head. That's not the question. Bad choice for a dodge. If there were two of us, there's a question you need to answer. Don't, Kayla insisted. Think about it. If you had to choose one of us, which would it be? Kivaza asked as she walked to the edge of the stone circle and stood in front of Shinji. What are you doing? Kayla said with alarm. We can't leave the circle. Well, Shinji, Kivaza grinned. Now you're really conflicted, aren't you? Don't answer her, Kayla pleaded. Okay, Shinji said, I won't. Kivaza pouted, and walked over and stood across from Kayla. I can't read either of you, Shinji complained. What should I have asked? Never mind that, Kayla said. I was going to show you my memories so you can better understand us. From 12 to 14, Kivaza mocked, I locked away a few key memories from that period. He saw the result of one resurfacing. I know you're not talking about the period spanning 14 to 17. The staff at PRI stole away most of that. We both remember how that ended, but let's not talk about what really happened at that facility. Shut up, Shadow, Kayla said angrily. Yes, let's show him your memories, Kivaza shook her head in disgust. Just not the inconvenient ones. We must maintain your narrative, poor, sweet, little Kayla. So kind and compassionate. Just don't look behind that door. Why are you doing this? Kayla growled. You're so desperate to be loved, Kivaza scoffed, or is that just the desire to breed? Is that what it means to be a Cletharian queen? Kayla gaped at her other self. Idiot, why did you say that? Kivaza grinned. I must be jealous. Of your body count. We were in agreement that we weren't going to tell anyone about that, Kayla said angrily. Shinji's presence had vanished from her mind. Where did he go? Kayla asked. Mission accomplished, Kivaza grinned. Why did you say that? Kayla raged. Cletharians are the most feared species in all of Corrales, and you just told him you're one of them and a queen at that. You think you scared him at Gestagios? That's nothing compared to this. He was terrified, and he ran. Kivaza snickered. He saw the memory of them wheeling me into the cloning chamber, and he was fine with that. To him, it was just some unknown insectal species. The Information Society doesn't have any records showing what they look like, or their ship designs. How could he have known they were Clatharians? After the Lamentic High Council saw to the destruction of the sun at the heart of Eldoron territory, the gravitational distortions impacted every planet within 100 light-years and killed billions. The reclusive Clatharian Empire was blamed. They've been used as a scapegoat for almost every vile act committed by the major factions from that day forward. They become a whispered terror. Having the Clatharian gland, known as a queen's mark, coiled around the brain stem wasn't enough to make her a queen. She was merely a pretender to the throne. Unfortunately, the actual Clatharian queen had become aware of her existence, and it was only a matter of time until they would come into conflict again. She'd faced the queen once before and narrowly escaped with her life. Callie's body, back in the real world, shivered involuntarily. He's gone, Syntholo's consciousness spoke to them from the purple flame at the center of the clearing. I can stay a little longer if you need me to. Took a lot out of me. Will be a few more minutes, Kivaza reassured him. Just proceed to the next stage of the plan. I have the feeling she'll be needing you once we're done here. Really? Kayla snarled, for what? A ride to the planet, Kivaza snickered. I know I took things a little too far, and you're still a bit frustrated. Do you seriously think I'm going to ask him to fly me down just so I can get? I'd be willing to accompany you. The fire pulsed with Syntholo's words. Kayla blushed. Go deal with Shinji, Kivaza ordered. I need to talk to my sister. They both stood in silence as Syntholo's consciousness receded, returning the fire to its normal color. You went too far, Kayla said softly. I know, Kivaza grumbled, I rushed things. We spent too long in the void. I felt something when thoughts passed us. It felt strange. Can you differentiate them? I remember, Kayla said. The psyche of the one we came in contact with while we are at PR. I felt like the old queen that battled the Wraith. The one we came in contact with while orbiting the Eldoron home world felt different. She wasn't ancient or curious, but young and domineering. Do you think the young queen is the successor to the one that made us? Kivaza asked. Kayla shrugged. Who cares? The young queen sees us as an unwanted rival, isn't that enough? No, Kivaza answered forcefully. The old queen is searching for you, I felt it. It frightened me. She felt weak. Be careful, it may be a trap. I will, Kayla insisted, but I think there's something we should discuss before we return to the real world. Go ahead. Do you love her? I take it we're not talking about the Clatharian queen anymore, Kivaza laughed. I was talking about cyanide, Kayla stuck out her tongue. Maybe, Kivaza blushed. I'm not entirely sure what that even means. I can't even explain how she make me feel. The world just seems more colorful with her in it. Distractions can be dangerous. I keep thinking about her even when she's not around. It worries me. Sometimes. She's important to me, and I enjoy being important to her. That sounds like love to me, Kayla said with a warm smile. Really, Kivaza whispered, it's terrifying. You aren't bothered that she's gone interspecies? Kivaza studied Kayla briefly before answering. Care to think about that question? Last time I checked, we're not Lamentic. Then again, we're not Shamfarian either, so we've both already gone interspecies on a technical level. Her story about Talshi didn't bother me, but you know that. I did encourage you to go down to the surface to get some release. Just don't damage the body we share, and we'll be fine. I can just retreat to the depths of our mind and dream of my Saiyan. If I'm disinterested, I don't have to pay any attention to what's happening. That being said, what are you really asking? Kayla bit her lower lip and wrung her hands. Can I seduce Syntholo? I doubt it. That was cold. I meant, would you mind if I try? I know you liked his bestial form, too. Just don't. He wasn't even comfortable with us watching him shape-shifting. He saw you were upset and was kind to you. Kivaza scolded. Don't assume there's some deeper motivation. It would cause problems with other crew members. If he initiates, I have no reason to object. Just don't do anything that could alienate a valued ally. Fine, Kayla sneered. I'll just call Kiryu to go bar hopping, get rip-roaring drunk and screw my way across the city. If that's really what you want, Kivaza snickered, be smart about it and invite Nelfree to go with you. Kayla blinked in disbelief. Are you serious? She's a nurse, and knows a lot more about biology than we do. Kivaza shrugged. She'd know what species would be damaging or simply impossible. I get that, Kayla stammered, but you wouldn't mind if I explored your own sexuality and experimented to find out what you do and don't like? Kayla blushed vividly. Kivaza grinned. Do you want me to pretend I have a problem with it? I think you're judging yourself enough for both of us. Shinji was overt in his attraction, and you kept wanting him to take the initiative. It will be interesting to see what happens when you have to be more direct. Doesn't that apply to you and Cyanide? Kayla jeered. The woman who stole a kiss to sneak through our mental defenses, and distracted us while she made her exit? The woman that was ready to literally run off without us until I gave her reason enough to invite us to run with her, conditional on my ability to keep up with her? That's Cyanide? Kayla frowned. You're bold in any other situation, Kivaza acknowledged. I'm not sure if it's a cultural hang-up or something about the way they keyed your psyche to respond to Vance. I really don't understand your feeling of shame and embarrassment. Will you seize control of your own sexuality or spend your time worried about what other people might think? If you wanted to get attention without doing something ridiculous or lewd, what would you do? Kayla asked. I don't know about your new friends, but I know you can dance. Kivaza and Kayla walked to the center of the stone circle. Let's go find out, they said in unison, as their consciousnesses merged. Callie's eyes fluttered open, her tail stirred restlessly, and she rolled over and stretched. She raised her mental shield, reactivated her combat empathy, then headed over to rummage through Thalo's old wardrobe. Oh, come on, she grumbled as she hurriedly searched through the collection. Are you telling me she didn't have a single simple black dress that doesn't look like a negligee? Lady Darkseid, please report to the bridge, Tyrell's voice said over the room intercom. This isn't a good time, Callie grumbled. I'm trying to find something to wear. Seriously? Just come to the bridge, Tyrell snickered. Is there a black dress that's my size on the bridge? No, Tyrell laughed. Should there be? There should be one somewhere on this damned ship, Callie snarled. What's wrong with that toga-looking thing you were wearing earlier? I borrowed it from Sin, Callie said. I'd rather wear something that's mine. You two seem awful chummy now. Did something happen while you were in that pod? Tyrell's tone was hard to interpret, but it was familiar. Are we going to have a problem? Callie asked nervously. I don't want to alienate you, but I'm getting a little concerned. I have the feeling this isn't the sort of conversation we should be having over an intercom, Tyrell said. Callie sighed heavily. I'll be right there. She settled on an extra-large black shirt that hit just above her knees. It still looked like sleepwear, but it would have to do. She got dressed and strode to the elevator, which opened as she approached. The ride to the bridge seemed somehow too fast and too slow. This conversation seemed inevitable, but she'd hoped she could delay it a bit longer. Callie took a deep breath as the elevator door opened. We just talked, she said as she stepped onto the bridge. Not that it's anyone's business. You don't seem to have any issues with Cyan or Shinji. Why do you suddenly care what I do with Syntholo? Tyrell sat in the main command chair smirking until she finished. Should I respond now, or wait until you're done with your little tirade? I'm a grown woman, Callie snapped. I'm not your daughter, so stop with this fatherly crap. Things went bad with Shinji, but I want to give him a chance to make things right. I finally establish a bond with Syntholo and your selfish ass starts asking me what happened because I went somewhere that you couldn't check on me. Stop right there, Tyrell yelled, before you go any further off the rails and say something that can't be unsaid. You're right about one thing. I am jealous, but not for whatever foolishness you've concocted. During the trip to Najrok, and a good chunk of the ride back you sat with me up here. This time, Syntholo's been keeping me company up here, and the only time I hear from you is when you want something. I didn't open up to you about my ex and kid for sympathy. I did it because I thought we were becoming friends. You're not the center of the universe. Callie looked down in shame. I'm sorry, how is Adelia? Go get fucked, Tyrell growled. Ask me later, if you actually give a damn. Right now. It's going to sound like some Flannix dung attempt to make up for. Tyrell, listen, Callie whispered, I meant what I said, Tyrell snapped. Syntholo just got back with the shuttle. March your little ass back onto that elevator, and get this out of your system. We can talk after you've worked out your aggression. Are you kicking me off my own ship? Callie scoffed. The elevator door opened behind her. Why did you call me up here? It can wait, Tyrell insisted. I'm sending you a message with a list of dress shops on the surface. Get yourself that little black dress. Go and enjoy yourself. Are you giving me orders, now? Callie chuckled. I wouldn't dream of it, Tyrell laughed, despite the hostility in his gaze. Fine, I'll be back after I've. Callie began as she turned to return to the elevator. Had an attitude adjustment? Tyrell interrupted as the door started to close behind her. Syntholo directed her to a communication console at the rear gunner's compartment of the assault fighter so she could have some privacy. As she connected her communicator, the video screen activated. Callie felt a bit underdressed as she saw herself on camera in one corner of the screen. The rest of the screen was a gray block displaying a message indicating there were no active connections. A blue border around her image pulsed as she spoke. This is probably a bad idea. Kiryu and Nelfrey were both very different people, which initially sounded like a great idea, but Callie was worried they wouldn't get along and the call would descend into chaos. Nelfrey picked up first. There was a sleeping mask on the top of her head, and she looked disheveled. Hello, Lady Darkseid. It's a little early, but your message said it was urgent. How can I help you? Sorry, Kivaza said apologetically. It's not urgent in the conventional sense, I just don't have many friends in system. So, I thought I'd check to see if you're available. I'm honored you see me as a friend, Nelfrey said enthusiastically. I'm just dealing with time constraints and... Callie began. Kiryu picked up while she was speaking, flooding the room with sound until the system automatically dampened her background audio. From the sound and flashing lights in the background it was pretty clear she was out at a dance club. Her face was also uncomfortably close to the camera. Callie, Kiryu yelled merrily. Hang on, Callie urged. As I was just saying to Nelfrey, I'm a bit short on time. Nelfrey, this is my friend Kiryu. One of the white-furred Cayman woman's eyes took up her entire corner of the screen for a moment. Hey, you're Arum, aren't you, girl? Yes, Nelfrey said nervously. That's great, Kiryu said excitedly. I really need to know something. This is incredibly important. What do you need? Nelfrey said timidly. I've had this Lupian guy hitting on me all night. He's not a bad looker, not so far interspecies that it's worth caring about. No danger of pups is all good for me, but I need to know, is it true what they say about Lupian guys? Are they really bigger? Oh, wait, you're a subspecies. You may not know, that was kinda rude of me. Nelfrey looked embarrassed. I've never been with one, personally, but I do know the answer. On the average, it is true Lupians are bigger. I was asking about their dicks, not their frame, Kiryu said with a toothy grin. You're Cayman from the looks of it, Nelfrey said in an analytical tone. On the average, Lupians tend to be 20% larger, in overall scale. However, their nut size tends to be around 10% narrower than a Cayman in relation to their shaft girth. Really? Kiryu said with a twinkle in her eyes. Maybe I won't tell him to go bark at the moon, if you get my meaning. The guy I've been spending my time with hasn't been able to finish what he starts. I was told we could try this stuff called Kailani Blue. That can be dangerous, Nelfrey said. Make sure you get the pre-measured recreational variety. Kiryu stopped laughing. That stuff is false advertising. You start thinking they're great in the sack, but it's just all the drug. Then they have to keep taking it so you don't find out they can't last without it. They should only sell it to hot guys that you want to go all night with. Nelfrey cleared her throat. I'm a nurse. I'm more concerned with the potential health effects. There have been cases of the medical grade causing permanent damage. Really? Kiryu said excitedly. You're a nurse. So Lupians really are bigger? That's not all talk. No, it's accurate. How about you two just exchange contact information so I can ask my question, Callie growled. Callie waited as they quickly exchanged contact data packets. The guy I'm seeing, you've both met him. He was having some problems finishing me off, so I was planning on heading down to the surface to find someone that can. Fuck off, mongrel, Kiryu snarled. Oh sorry, not you. Just some drunk guy, face like a Shar-Pei. Nelfrey shuddered noticeably. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Kiryu barked. Not with a 10-foot pole with his dick attached. Nelfrey giggled. Okay. I'm going to go sit at a booth, Kiryu said apologetically. Maybe then these idiots will leave me alone. Your friend is a bit wild, Nelfrey said nervously. I could never. Sure, you could, Kiryu insisted. You're good looking. As long as they think there's a place to put it, they'll be all over you. A couple hours out on the town with me and we'd have our pick of the litter. We can even invite Callie along, to make things weird. I'm on my way to the surface now, Kivaza said forcefully. Sorry, I may be a little drunk, Kiryu said merrily. I just wanted to ask if there are any dance clubs you'd recommend, Callie said, and was hoping Nelfrey would come as a technical advisor. Well, in that case you have my attention, Kiryu giggled. Technical advisor, Nelfrey asked in confusion. I'm in the mood for something different, Callie blushed, and you know a lot more about potential biological conflicts than I do. Sounds great. I think you need a good humping, and you too. Hey, come join me, and we'll see if we can corrupt you and bring out naughty Nurse Nelfrey. Kiryu grinned. Meet me at Club A9 when you can. Hey, I just saw that Lupian that was watching me earlier. See you when you get here. Bye. Kiryu disconnected. Thank you, Nelfrey, Callie said. I'm sorry if that was uncomfortable for you. I really should get out more, Nelfrey admitted, but Club 9th is. You're not obligated, Callie consoled. Kiryu's lifestyle is a bit much for me too, but I'm leaving system in a few hours. It's going to be a long trip. This may be my last chance to relax and have some fun for a while. I was hoping this would help you see me as a person, and help you relax around me. I'm really not someone to put on a pedestal. I wish I could, Nelfree said sorrowfully. I just can't, I mean I don't know how to. How to what? Dance, Nelfree said in embarrassment. You can still sit with us, and keep me company. I've honestly never been to a dance club before, so I'm going to be a bit out of my element too. I can ask my pilot to stay with the table, so you always have company. Lady Darkseid, Nelfree began hesitantly, may I call you Callie? I'd like that, Callie said just before the call was terminated. Callie opened the door to the gunner's compartment. Just hold your position. We're just about to touch down, Syntholo said. I volunteered you to join us at the table, Callie said. One of my friends can't dance. You did volunteer to accompany me, and I hoped you wouldn't mind keeping her company if Kiryu and I both end up dancing at the same time. I expect one of us will probably be at the table at all times. I just don't want her to feel too left out. This friend, what's their profession? A nurse with a background in linguistics and archaeology. Syntholo nodded. I'm sure we'll have plenty to discuss. I'd be delighted to entertain. Chapter 31.